Hi there, and thanks for joining our presentation. Today, Phoebe and myself will be talking about vRealize Automation and Terraform. What can you do with them separately, and then what can you do with them together? So my name's Chris Noon. I'm a senior SDN specialist at Assistec. And Phoebe is?
Hi, everyone. My name is Phoebe Kim. I'm a senior cloud solutions architect at VMware. So today we'll do a quick overview of vRealize Automation and Terraform. Afterwards, we'll dive into some of the differences between the two products and how you can actually use them together. And then we'll finish with a demo. So let's start with vRealize Automation. So vRealize Automation is a cloud management and automation platform that helps organizations simplify their cloud experience by allowing organizations to automate deployment to various cloud environments, such as private vSphere sites and public cloud environments. vRA also allows organizations to deliver self-service experience for their end users, which overall then improves agility, productivity, and efficiency of IT processes. So vRealize supports the full lifecycle of your workloads. So it helps organizations manage their workloads from day 0 to day N. So vRealize Automation can be used to deploy the initial cloud infrastructure and define cloud constructs. Then you can also use vRA to provision workloads by using cloud templates. vRA can help you manage workload operations and optimization as well. And vRealize also provides CodeStream, which is a CI/CD pipeline that allows developers to continuously develop and optimize applications. Now I'll pass it off to Chris to tell you more about Terraform.
Thanks, Phoebe. So Terraform is an open source project, and it's defined as infrastructure as code. Essentially, what Terraform is an application, and that application takes advantage of what they call providers. And providers can be written for AWS, GCP, on-prem stuff like VMware or F5. So you've got to think of Terraform as the application and the providers being the middleman to interact with the different parts of your infrastructure that you want to code. So with Terraform being open source and with the providers being written by the open source community, there are hundreds and hundreds of open source providers that are constantly developed and constantly updated. So the breadth of infrastructure as code that you can achieve by using Terraform is tremendous. And there are two different types of automation or infrastructure as code. One is a declarative way, and one is I can't think of the word.
Imperative.
Imperative. Thank you, Phoebe. One is an imperative method. So things like Ansible or vRA would be imperative, where you have to kind of work through a certain step of instructions. So as you're building something out, you need to build it out in the specific order. If you mess up that order in any way and there's dependencies, then the automated deployment would fail. What I really like about Terraform and other ones, Chef, Puppet, or some other declarative forms of code, is what they work as is, because they're declarative, you set a large set of instructions, you send that to the end consuming point, let's say AWS for this example, and then it reads it, and Terraform will be able to work out those dependencies and build it out in the right order. So Terraform being declarative means you don't need to work out those dependencies, it works them out for you, which is fantastic. So if we move on to the next slide. Thank you. So the way Terraform works, I mentioned Terraform is kind of that application piece, and then you lean on those providers. So today what we're going to be leaning on is the NSXT provider, and we're going to interact with VMC on AWS. So what I would do is I would first start by writing code. I would specify what type of provider I want, which is the NSXT, and then I would start writing some code. Today in the demo, what we're going to do is we're going to build out some segments, we're going to build out some DFW rules, and we're going to create some security groups. Then once I've built that code, I move to the planning stage. And that planning stage is very simple. It's Terraform plan. And then what it will do is it will check what the current state of Terraform is, what is actually provisioned online, and then tell you what the differences are. So it will say, oh, I'm going to build out this, or no changes required, or minor modifications are required. And once you believe that plan is good and that's ready to be deployed, you can then do a Terraform apply, and that pushes it to the end resource. So again, today it's going to be VMC and the NSX environment, and we'll be creating those three things. A lot of our customers, both myself and Phoebe, want to automate their deployments, whether it be day zero or day two operations. And you get a lot of the customers looking at vRealize automation, vRA, or they're looking at Terraform. And they want to know why they should use one and why they should use the other. So there is a lot of overlap between these two products. I myself spend more time with Terraform, Phoebe with vRA, as you'll see our presentation kind of separate. But vRA is it's more of an enterprise level solution where it has built-in management, has built-in compliance, built-in auditing and approval kind of flows that you can work through. So it has all that enterprise elements built in. Whereas Terraform, for the most part, when you're using it as open source and free, you don't have the management or compliance or auditing. But it is open source, it is very powerful, and with the breadth of providers, you do get a lot more interaction with the end results. There are options that you can use from a Terraform perspective, like Terraform Enterprise, that kind of handle that management, compliance, and auditing. But what Phoebe's going to talk about now is if you are a VMware house, like a lot of my customers are, and they're looking to use Terraform, rather than moving into that Terraform Enterprise space, you can couple up with what you already have with vRA and Terraform. So I'll pass you back to Phoebe.
Thanks, Chris. So let's explore how vRA and Terraform can be used together. So, as Chris mentioned, vRA, it provides a more user-friendly experience with a UI, and you don't necessarily have to be a developer fairly versed in command line to use Terraform, right? But now Terraform is natively integrated with vRA, so you can consume Terraform configuration and templates as vRA resources in the cloud templates. So with this integration, you don't have to manage Terraform state anymore either, because vRA will manage Terraform state centrally, and you can view that from the vRA UI. And you can use Terraform operations as extensibility events in vRA as well as ABX actions or vRealize orchestrator workflows. And also Terraform doesn't have a self-service capability. So if you consume Terraform through vRA, you can actually make Terraform configuration files available to consume by end users through Service Broker Catalog, which I will walk through in the demo. But for now, let's start with how Terraform works. So I'll pass it back to Chris for the demo portion.
Okay, thank you, Phoebe. So what we're going to do today is use Terraform from a CLI perspective, and we're going to build out some elements on vRA. Me and Phoebe have been working slightly separately, so there are some things already created. You'll see a lot of VBB, vBrownBag, etc., stuff that Phoebe's been working on for her vRA piece, and I've prepended mine with CN_. So what we've got here is we have the Terraform code, which I'll go through in a second. I just want to run through the VMC environment to show you nothing's been done before. So what we're looking at here is we're looking for some CN segments. There are none. We're looking for some CN distributed firewall rules, which there won't be. And we are also looking for some CN groups. And as you can see, there are none. So what I want to do is just go through the Terraform CLI just briefly, just to make sure you kind of see what's happening from a CLI perspective. And then you'll see how vRA can make that a lot simpler for your end user consumption when they're not Terraform experts. So we're working within this file here, this file stream here, and there are some variables in there. That'll be my NSX endpoint and my NSX API key, which for obvious reasons, I won't be opening that file. And then we do have a main Terraform file. So this main Terraform file has provider that we're going to use. Like I said before, Terraform is the application. The provider is kind of the manual. So I'm going to be using the NSX provider, the NSX manual, to interact with our NSX endpoint with that authentication token. Now, I've commented out some code here for the CGW and the MGW, to the management and the compute gateways, just to make this demo go a little bit smoother. The main part we're going to be working on today is the vbb.tf file, so .tf for Terraform. And then what we're going to do is we're going to create out these pieces. We're going to create some segments. We're going to create some DFW rules, and we're going to create some groups. So first of all, you can see I want to create a fixed segment. I want to call it CNVBB web. The display name will be the same. It'll be connected to the CGW, and it will have this network address. Same for the app, it's obviously different name and different address, and the same for the DB. Now, I've structured this file specifically in this way because if you were working with the imperative code, you would need to structure it in a format that was logical. So you'd create the segments, then you create the groups, and then because within my DFW group, my DFW rules, I actually reference the groups, I would need to create the groups first. Like I said, Terraform is declarative, so what it's actually going to do is it's going to work out that it needs to create those groups first and create those first before creating these. So you can see here, I've got some cloud to web rules, I've got some web to app rules, and I've got some app to DB rules. And finally, in the groups, what we have is some web groups, and any virtual machines that contain CN_VBB web are going to be placed in this group. Same for app and same for DB. So you can see the code is semi-readable. It's written in HashiCorp language, which is the HCL language. And then this is going to work with APIs towards our NSX endpoint. So what I'll do is I'll bring up the CLI 9. Now I will make sure I'm in the correct area. First of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a Terraform init. What a Terraform init is going to do is just initialize the provider. So again, Terraform is the application. It's going to download that NSXT provider. So we have NSXT 322 or the provider 322. Then I'm going to run the Terraform plan. So it's going to tell me what it believes from our configuration files and what VMC looks like, what it believes it needs to do. So if we scroll to the top here, we can see create is a green plus. And obviously nothing is there because we've not done anything yet. So what it wants to do is create a segment for app, a segment for DB, and a segment for web. It then wants to create the groups, and then it wants to create the policy with the rules inside. So we like this plan. We think it's good. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a Terraform apply, and it's going to run through that plan again. It's going to do a refresh and say, I just want to double check everything. Do you want to commit? Yes, I do. And then in 2 to 3 seconds, what you're going to have is those 3 segments, those groups, and those rules built out. So you can see from a very small environment that can be built in a few seconds, you can do this at large scale as well. So if this is something you're wanting to spin up at busy times, if it's something, PoCs that you want to spin up, you can do this quite quickly and then bring it down, which we'll do in a second. So if I go to VMC now, you can see I now have my groups, my 3 groups prepended with CN. If I check here for my rule, you can see I have a policy and I have my 3 rules. I have my web, I have my any to web, web to app, app to cloud, app to DB, sorry. And then finally, my segments will be created, as you can see here. Okay, and what's great about Terraform, which is one of the reasons a lot of my customers choose to use this in a production environment, is I can do a Terraform plan now, and I can see, it can say, check the current state and tell me what's right or wrong with it. So it's going to refresh the state. It's going to check everything. It's going to change some of the IDs. And as you can see, it's modifying it, but that's more of the VMC piece changing some of the IDs because they've recently been created, but it's not going to add or remove anything. So no changes. Your infrastructure matches the infrastructure. So these don't matter too much. Okay. So perfect. We've done these. The great thing about this is if I was to delete this segment, you can see the web segment would be removed. If I was to do a Terraform plan now, it would see that segment will be removed. So it means from a day 2 operations, if someone makes a mistake, you can easily come back, double check. Someone's made a mistake or changed something without changing it through the infrastructure as code area. We can then re-push that out and go back to, still trying to delete, so problem. But you can see once that's deleted, we can then push that new element into the cloud. Now to clean up for the demo, I'm going to do a Terraform destroy. So it's just going to go through and see what's in my files. Maybe this is a PoC, for example, and I'm going to destroy everything that we built in this demo. Again, it takes a couple of seconds to bring everything down. There you go, 6 items destroyed because this 7th one was there. So you can see those are going to be deleted. The groups are gone, and so our segment and distributed firewall rule is also gone. So what's great about this is I've been able to spin up stuff quite quickly, spin it down quite quickly. I told you I've shown you I can correct certain environment variables if they've been deleted or removed. But one issue we do have is the management. Who has access to this? The auditing, who's made changes, who's run certain things, the security, RBAC, all those type of things. So I can either go for that Terraform enterprise model. I can get a third-party software in there. Or what I can do is I can hand over to Phoebe and she can show us how vRA can do all of that.
Let's see how we can use Terraform configuration file that Chris created in vRA. We can consume those files here. So first off, Terraform is natively integrated with vRA. So as you can see, I am in vRA Cloud with Cloud Assembly. And if you go to the infrastructure and Terraform version, which is where I am, you already have some of the Terraform versions configured in there. If it doesn't have a version that you'd like to use, then you could manually add a Terraform version in here as well. Now, if you want to consume Terraform configuration files in vRA, you have to integrate it with a repository that holds these Terraform files. So it could be GitHub or GitLab. So for my example, we have used GitLab. So as you can see, I created a project for VMworld 2021. And here I created a directory called session 3012, which is this session. And this is going to be where that integration point with vRA is. And within this folder, there's another directory called demo1, which has those Terraform configuration files that Chris just used for his section of the demo. So if you go back to vRA, you can go to integrations, and this is where you would integrate with GitLab or GitHub, whichever repository you are using. As you can see, I already have one made for GitLab. And once you have this integration set up, you can go to the projects tab within the GitLab integration. And as you can see, I added the project VMworld 2021 in here and specifying the directory session 3012. And that's where all of our demo folders, which contain the files, will be, right? So this is what you need to do. And another thing you would have to do is in vRA projects, where we have a VMworld 2021, BBB Terraform project, you have to go to provisioning and allow this project to deploy Terraform resources to cloud zones. And that's done by this radio button down here. You have to make sure to enable that before you can consume Terraform resources in a cloud template. So now if you go to design, you can create a cloud template by clicking new and then Terraform, right? So if you do this, you could call it, demo 2. And then you select the project where you allowed the Terraform resources provisioning. And once you do that, you will see the GitLab integration pop up here with the repository. So you can select the repository and then you could select which commit of that version, right, that you can actually choose here. And then this is where you would choose the source directory for the Terraform files. So if you remember, I had the session 3012 folder, And then within that, I had a demo1 folder, which then contains all of those Terraform configuration files. So I'm just going to cancel here because I already have one. So I'm going to show you the cloud template. So once you create it, it'll look like this. It's pretty simple, but you see the Terraform resource in here. And let's say you update the file later on and you commit, right, to GitLab, then you don't have to create a new cloud template every time. You can actually just update this commit ID in YAML code here, and it'll update the cloud template with that. So it takes a little time. So I already deployed this cloud template, which you can see right here, and all the resources that it has created. And if you actually click into the deployment, you can see in the history, there are show logs button where it actually shows all of the Terraform logs, like Chris showed you in his CLI a little bit earlier, which is pretty cool. So you can see all of the things that Terraform has done when it ran. So now that the infrastructure is built from Terraform, in order to consume those resources, you have to do a little bit of configuration in vRA. So for one, if we want to use those segments that Chris's Terraform files have created, then you have to create a network profile that the cloud template can use. So here, I have an example of that network profile. And I added the 3 segments that Terraform has created with a corresponding constraint tag that I will use in cloud template to direct vRA in terms of placement of the workloads, right? So if we now go back to the cloud templates, I created one already with 3 different machines, so web, app, and DB, and they're going to be placed on a corresponding segment that Terraform has created, and it's determined by that tag that I put on each of those segments. So this deployment takes about 20 minutes or so with the VMs. So I'm going to show you the deployment that has already happened. So for here, you can see the VMs that have been created, and they're on the segments that Terraform already created before we made this deployment happen. So as you can see, this has been deployed successfully. Now, one last thing I do want to show is the service broker. So these templates have been already published to Service Broker, where I made it available to consume from a catalog. So we'll go to Service Broker. And in the content and policies, this is where you would identify the content source, which in our case, I put in the VBB Terraform project. And then from there, I added the items, right here in the content. So 2 of the cloud templates I've created for this demo are available in the catalog for the end user. So let's say some end user wants to deploy or use this Chris's Terraform file, right? Then they can actually just request it and name that deployment, and they will be able to manage that from here. So this is one of the benefits of using Terraform with vRA, in a sense that Terraform itself doesn't have this sort of self-service catalog capability. So this concludes the demo, and I'll pass it off to Chris for closing.
So thank you very much. For attending mine and Phoebe's session. We hope you found it useful. Both of us are pretty friendly, so if you want to reach out on LinkedIn or Twitter or whatever social media you like and want to follow up, please do so. And we want to thank vBrownBag for hosting us.
Thanks, everyone.